congratulations. We're going to get into this.
Okay.
There is so much to discuss. I'm so excited to talk about this book. But first, Jolie, how are you doing? How is Jolie?
You know, I'm really good. I'm enjoying this this whole process, and oh my God, it's my roommate from college, right in the front row.
That's exciting.
And her handsome husband. They're still together too, like me, married 21 years.
We're going to applaud for that.
Yeah, they're married longer than that. Yeah. Yay,
Matching
marriage.
beverages too, by the way. Matching beverages. That's adorable.
That is adorable.
I'm really enjoying that. Okay.
You know, it has been, you know, a couple of years of white knuckling, you know, tragedy and loss and illness and things like that, and raising lots of children in my home. I don't know how they got in. I childproofed, and and thank you. You know, I'm turning it around. Yeah. I'm going to live spectacularly in honor of those who are not here, and for my children, be a role model and a force.
For sure. And in the process so far, touring the book, this is your first book, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this is your first time. You've been an entertainer for years, but this is your first time doing all this.
Right. I mean, I only speak in sound bites. Yeah. But now you have a whole lot of it mashed up to 309 pages. But I think that what I've done is sort of navigated this crazy, beautifully bizarre life that I've led, and given you the gems and the light and the dark. And I am excited to share that. I wrote it in a way that you can sort of like consume one chapter at a time and sort of let it ruminate, and you know, or skip ahead to, you know, the apple doesn't fall apart very far from the tree, which is
that's the fun part, is you could jump around, and also a lot of the bits are kind of like bite-sized little fun stories and like things here and there. But I'm really curious, as someone who's grown up in the public eye and someone who
in the fishbowl,
as you call it, correct? You grew up in the fishbowl. And I believe at one point you say there's a total of 7 minutes of your life that has not been documented.
Yes, those 7 minutes.
So keeping all that in mind, as you're writing this book, were you at all hesitant to pull the curtain even further back and share maybe the last bits of privacy and moments that were just yours? Do you know what I mean? Like
I have some of those. Yeah. I do. But mostly they're there. Yeah. As you've seen. I decided to be authentic and sort of and put it all out there, whether I've ever made you laugh on TV, or whether you hear me speaking passionately about something that I care about, or you are, you know, a mom at school that I wave to across the pickup line, or you don't know who the heck I am. Read this, because you're going to find that you identify with something in there. You know, we have, I grew up with, you know, very famous parents. That's this part of the story you all know. But I grew up with the same issues, but in different square footage. You know, like I feel like I'm like every woman. Going through navigating adolescence was much like it was for any other woman or boy, you know, and I had this beautiful, iconic watermark who it was difficult to be the daughter of that person and not have trouble finding who I was going to be as a woman. So I think I finally found her. I turned 50 years old a week and a half ago, and I've never felt more beautiful. I've never felt like I have more to give than I ever have. And
was approaching that landmark, that milestone, was that part of the decision to sort of write everything down thus far and sort of take inventory of Jolie or was that incidental that you were turning 50 at that time?
Ish. You know, I have been. Somebody said to me, somebody that I love and respect very much, said, you know, in a memoir, there's no new material. Right. So I wasn't sitting down to craft something that wasn't truthful. So it poured out of me. I was inspired to sit down and write the book by the loss of my sister. You know, it's not a book about any one of these people in particular. It's a book about her. that green-eyed girl. And but having lost Carrie almost a year ago, and then Debbie right after that, I was like, I feel like we Fisher girls, my sister Trisha Lee included, we use this as a tool to get through life. We write it down, or we sing about it, or we, whatever it is. And so I sat down to write about loss, and then I realized I have to write about the win too. And that's what happened. And I, was given this tremendous opportunity to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And that's what I did.
For sure. Well, that's what I mean when I describe it as a ride, because there are these amazing, the wins, the losses, the whole nine, warts and all. You certainly don't pull any punches in the stories that you do tell. I'm curious, you say that we write it down. Were you someone that kept diaries or journals, or was this your first time sort of excavating all of these moments and sort of going back and
I have stacks.
No way.
Stacks. I think it was something that I don't even know how it started. I know, and my sister Trisha Lee is the same way. We literally, I think maybe it was from acting class, or maybe it was just from, being a fatherless daughter and sitting down and writing those letters to our dad that were never sent, and then finally, obviously, getting to spend quality, amazing years with him. But as a child, it was like, I need to be able to speak my truth, and I'm not allowed to do that just yet. So it was in the writing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of a journal that I put in there.
You put it in just
It
verbatim?
sounds, yeah. I think it's even might be italicized, so you know that it's actually my writing from a journal. And it's about my mom, and I called her the lion because she's a Leo. And I said she roars. I can see her from where I sleep. She roars. And it sounds like something I would say now. And I was like 23 years old. I know exactly, because I pulled out a journal from that era and started flipping through it, and I was like, how am I going to tell the tale of this man or this person or whatever? And that's where I found that.
Well, that's just it, right? I would imagine it helps to sort of color in a lot of those things, because memories, we always remember something a certain way, but when you do take the time to write it down in that moment, you sort of crystallize your feelings in that moment. When you go back and you're looking at these things, you're reviewing these stacks and stacks, because I imagine prior to this project, you didn't sit around just reading.
I had really good handwriting, too.
Did you? You wanted to throw that in?
I still do. But I was able to read it.
You were able to read it.
Like, just penmanship was very important to me. Catholic school.
With the experience you have now as a person, as Jolie today, looking back at those things with this new perspective, did you learn more about yourself? Did you find something or discover something in these memories that prior were just memories, but now you're like, oh, that's the moment this clicked, or I realized this?
I got a text from an actress named Alicia Coppola Jones. And I run into her from time to time in LA, and she wrote a book, and she said, how's it going? And I said, oh, it's going okay. It's sort of pouring out of me. And she goes, you have to write like everybody's dead or you won't tell the truth. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's kind of what I did. And I think that what I learned is that I feel like I've always been driven, and sometimes that's like a bad word when it comes to a chick, or motivated or whatever, but disciplined. I feel like I've been disciplined. And when I haven't, I really haven't been. But in terms of this, I decided that this was my job, and I treated it as such. And I sat down and was like, children, are you okay? Are you fed? Are you well? I'm going to write my book now. And I would disappear for hours. And sometimes there was wine involved. And sometimes there wasn't. Sometimes I don't sleep very well ever, but I wake up at like 2 and 3 and 4:21, and I watch myself not sleep. So I said, you know what, screw it, I'll get up and I'll go write. Yeah. And some of the most delicious, sexy writing came of those times to me. The stuff that I like.
You identify pretty early on that you're going to be the family kind of comedian. The court jester, I believe, is the term you use, where you're always in these really, really tough times trying to make light and keep everybody laughing and trying to find ways to laugh through it and smile through it. Do you remember when you identified that you were that person within the family? Like when you were like, oh, I got to be the funny one right now?
Birth. That's when I identified.
That was the moment.
Yeah. I came in and made everybody laugh. No, I don't know. There are a lot of funny people in my family, but I think that you have to. There's healing in laughter, and there's also sort of a self-deprecating thing about laughter too. And I think that when I didn't always feel like I was in my body necessarily because of self-image or anything like that, that being funny got me through that. Which is not a bad thing. I think that that the reason why I stayed married so long is because I found somebody that I make laugh and he makes me laugh. I have funny kids, and we definitely we heal in our family through laughter as well.
You mentioned just a moment ago that, all right, the kids are down, the kids are ready to go. Now I'm going to go right.
The kids are down like they're babies. Like one of them is taller than me.
Yeah, how old are your kids
now?
now? One's 16, one is...
16, 11, and 9.
16,
and my
11, and 9.
stepsons, who I've been their stepmom for 21 years, are 31 and 29, and they each have a child.
Wow.
I'm Glamma.
You're Glamma.
Yes.
Have any of them read Glamma's book?
Pieces of it.
Pieces of it?
Yes.
Okay.
I decided that I would not start handing it out.
Yeah.
I actually didn't physically hold the book until like a week ago.
It was a moment.
We got it on camera. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
We were shooting for the People magazine article that's on the stands right now, and we were shooting, and I didn't know if they planned it this way, but the package arrived, and I said, it says HarperCollins on it, and I was like, oh my God. So I was like, I can't open it right now because I want to finish doing what I'm doing for the day, and then we were like, babe, bring it in on camera. So my husband came running in, and he's like, it's here, and I literally opened it up, and I was like, holding it, and it's a surreal thing because it's my story and I'm sticking to it, but to hold it and to read the words all together on the printed page is just an incredible experience.
Yeah, it's real at that point. All this time, all the hard work, everything. Now it's
the train has left the station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring up the kids is because you, as you detail in the book, you grew up pretty fast. You had to grow up fast.
Yeah.
Sort of the environment you grew up within, the things you were exposed to early on. There's that story where you guys are at the Italian restaurant, you pull Connie out because magically, like, a mountain of cocaine shows up out of nowhere, and you're like, we gotta get out of here.
It's weird. Mountains of cocaine ended up in a lot of places. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. So you had to grow up fast, right? So
I
now
did.
you have that experience, you have that life. Do you find yourself sort of actively trying to slow down the rate at which they have to grow up? Are you trying to preserve their
That's
childhood?
such a good question.
Thank you.
It's very, very hard to slow down what's happening in the world. So I think the idea that my children are exposed to... When I was growing up, it was, I hate to say, a simpler time because I just talked about mountains of cocaine, but the world was a simpler place, I think. Now they're exposed to so much. I mean, they are collectively, not just my children. They're not blasé. They just don't, they don't care as much about like what other people are eating or wearing, and which thrills me, by the way. They all grew up, and there's the chapter Leading Lady Plays House, which is how each child came to me at which point in my life, including the one that I adopted, and what I was doing, and who I was as a married woman, and where I was in my relationship and my career, and how each child came to me, is a very interesting story because I think children come to you like when they're supposed to, or at all, and they grew up, were weaned, took their first steps, all that sort of like in public, like I did, but it's not as special anymore because we're watching inside people's homes, and and reality television and the internet has exposed us to so much, and I think it's curated by the people. I think some people do it very well. They show you what they want you to see, but it's almost as if it's expected of us now to be on display, and that's how I grew up. But my kid, they're not.
Well, that gives you an interesting perspective. I think all parents everywhere are struggling with how do we deal with social media in our child's lives and all that stuff. But you do have the perspective of before social media was a thing. That was the life you grew up in. Everybody watching everything you do. Everybody seeing everything you do. So you have this different perspective and this different take on it. So do you think that informs their sort of blasé attitude about all of it? Of like, this has always been normal.
Yes, probably. I mean, a little bit. I like where their heads are at. I like what they're looking at. I think that, you know, when I say the fishbowl, I literally describe it as that, because it's like, you know, when you look into an aquarium and you go tap, 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 because you know you're not supposed to tap on the glass. That hurts the fish.
Everyone knows that.
They have ears
Everyone
and they hurt,
it.
right?
Yeah.
But everybody does it, and then you go, oh, that's a pretty, look at the stripy one. That's so pretty. That one's not very cute at all. Look how that one swims. Oh, it's doing tricks. Is that one dead? Slap, slap, slap. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I felt like people were looking at me.
Yeah.
And my mother, and I had bionic hearing. Like, I could hear people's thoughts. So I got protective of that. So when I walk into a room, I look to see who's looking and who's not looking, and who's, you know, or what they're saying. And they definitely, like, speaking to like them having a good head on their shoulders. And whenever I start to feel like bummed about whatever the future may hold, a moment like this brings you right back. It's like, we're going to be all right. So we're going to, I think it was the 20th anniversary of the puppy episode. Mm-hmm. And they were like, why is this a big deal? And you're like, well, there was a time where on TV you couldn't say that you were gay, and they were just like, well, why? Like, who cares? Why? And I was like, I've done a good job.
All right, good. So far, so good. We're doing it right. We're going to make this work.
They are definitely from the world of love who you love and be who you are, and, you know. It's not, you know.
We're in a minute. We're going to turn it over to audience Q&A, but I'm like made of questions here. I have so many things I want to ask you. I know you're also doing. I just saw you're kind of bringing this to life. There's a live performance at I want to say Catalina.
I'm doing L.A., Palm Springs, the Purple Room, San Diego, Martinis Above 4th, and Feinstein's in San Francisco.
Oh my God!
So that's the West Coast tour, and then I'm going to come here and do it. Yeah, I sang a song the other night in a benefit, as one does when you're in this world. Yeah. And these two guys came over who I sort of knew and said, do you have a whole show in you? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. And they were like, no, literally, in December, do you have a whole show in you? And I was like, well, I have the book, and I could read things from, and then I could sing. And yes, okay, you're booked. And I was like,
no way.
So the show is ready.
Well, it's so funny.
I'm going to rehearse it later tonight. I don't know. Yeah.
I saw the announcement. It was kind of like, I don't know if it was like last night or the night before. I was like, oh, how did I miss this? And it's like, now I hear your story. It's literally just come together.
Yes.
That's so exciting.
I'm going to sing some songs and tell some stories.
Have you figured out, do you know which stories, like, is there a story in your head right away you're like, oh, I have to tell this one? Like, is there a story you're really excited to tell?
I'm not sure if, like, a story that I'm excited to tell. I will tell one little story from this is like indicative of who I am as a human being from the very beginning. So my mom comes off stage, and we're at Harrah's Casino in Reno, Nevada. And the nanny comes up and says, don't be alarmed, but we can't find Jolie. And she's like, what? Of course she was alarmed. She was freaking out. And so the stage manager, stagehands, and the musicians, and everybody's running around, and they're trying to find the baby. So I was 3, and you know, the other baby was sleeping, and then the concert mistress, because they had a full orchestra on stage, came down in her long black gown, and she was carrying me as I slumbered, and she was like, "Shh, she's sleeping." So of course I woke up to the melee, and my mom I could see tears in her eyes, and she had just come off stage. She was still in a sequin gown, and she was like, Jolie, honey, you know, I had crawled into the orchestra pit and fallen asleep in the violin section. And she says, you can't do that. You can't just disappear like that. And I told my mom that I wanted to hear the music from the inside. So that's what I've been trying to do my whole life, is trying to get in there and have all the feels and be inside of the music. And that's kind of what I'm trying to teach my own children.
I was going to say, 1, adorable. 2, first, let's just get that out of the way. That is an adorable thing for a child to say. And then
I got in trouble, by the way, for escaping. But
she wasn't overpowered by the cuteness in the my She was like, yeah, that's cute, but still, don't do that.
Yes, it was a courageous thing for you to do, Jolie. You're grounded. That's great.
I'm wondering, have you witnessed sort of those same? Because that's a beautiful thing to, as a human being, to be able to like identify that early on. This is what I'm chasing. Is the music from the inside. Have you witnessed similar moments within your children? Like, have that, like, maybe not all of them, as 1 or 2 of them have been. Have they had their moment? That moment, like epiphany.
You know, I don't know that they necessarily know what they want to be when they grow up. My daughter Skylar, who's 16, is a beautiful dancer. She picked up a guitar and just started playing it. I could never play an instrument. I can sing, but she sits down at a piano and learns a song like by ear. Amazing, beautiful voice. True, my middle daughter, who's 11, she sounds like a folk rock, like the stuff that beautiful singer, smart, like out of the box, crazy, like presidential award smart. And Luna is funny and can dance. She'll probably be a stand-up or a hip-hop dancer. They all have their thing. I don't know if that's how they're gonna make their living. I don't know. If they want to.
Well, that's the other thing too. They're so young. They could have had.
I'll lock them in a room.
They don't realize it yet, right? They could have had that moment, but it just hasn't hit them that was the moment.
Let's ask them.
Yeah, let's bring them out. We have kids here.
They're in school.
One more thing I wanted to ask you about is you talk about how, of course, the loss of your sister sort of inspired you to write and sit down and do this, but it also inspired you and Trisha Lee to start the Fisher Foundation, which you talk about a little bit at the end. It's fledgling, early stages.
Yes.
I'm wondering, since the book is completed, how that's coming along, how you guys are working on that, and what the sort of mission is behind it.
Listen, with the moniker, I got a lot. I got the ability to have a platform. I got, good DNA. I have to live down a bunch of crap too, and live up to a lot of stuff. So I want to form this Fisher Foundation because the women that have come to me that looked to Carrie for solace or inspiration or guidance or to keep secrets, whatever it was that she was to millions of people, but particularly people have reached out to me on social media. What's happening? What will we do now? They call me J Mama, and Trisha's Spissy Dish, and we, I don't know, they made it up, but I'll answer to it. And we are going to find a way to honor people that are working in making strides with bipolar disorder and addiction, and be an ear and find a place to educate, enlighten, and encourage people who have issues. The group of people that have come to me are young women, but there are certainly young men that are welcome in the Fisher Foundation. But we're trying to figure out a platform, to have a platform for that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, talk about honoring strong and beautiful women. I mean, this book, okay, we're going to turn over to audience Q&A, but I do got to say, at the core of this book, it's a story about you, it's a story of your life, but your life is filled for all of the ups and downs and drama with strong, beautiful women that were talented, courageous, brilliant, and succeeded. You read some of these stories and you think of the simpler time and what Connie had to deal with to become Connie. And, all of these different people, it's an incredible collection of stories. So congratulations on this book, and congratulations on releasing it. Very excited for you. We're going to turn it over to the audience. We've got some questions and microphones in the room. Looks like our first one's right here.
Hi.
Hi. Since there are so many sections of this book where you describe moments of your life, what was your favorite one to write about?
I was very proud to be a part of history-making television on the Ellen Show. I got to be, the bestie, Paige Clark. I think, prepared the way for what we watch on TV today. So that was, it was very easy for me to write that. I wrote a chapter. I'll tell you. I'll pull one out. I wrote a chapter about animals, and it's a very short one. But I don't trust people that don't like animals.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
Right? So, and it goes beyond, all the crazy, I had a pack of wolves growing up in my house. We had Fernando Llama that lived at our house in Home Beach Hills because, why not? And it goes also to the exotic and nearly endangered animals of the planet, and that I work with the International Fund for Animal Welfare, and I've conceived of PSA campaigns and worked with them and traveled around and lobbied on the Hill. And the Endangered Species Act is in trouble right now. So we have to make sure that, because it's a primordial thing, we have to make sure that the gentle giants of our planet stay where they are, or else future generations don't get what we have.
Awesome.
I got animals in there.
You got animals in there. You certainly did. Next question appears to be right here.
Hi. You appear to be a very, very strong woman, and you talked about your sister in the book, that she was a person who would kind of talk you off the ledge. I'm wondering, now that she's gone, do you have the support system, or do you no longer need it because now you're gonna live your life, like you said, in honor of them and be resilient and, you know, influence all these people? Or if you do need that support, who
Will you be there for me?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think, first of all, I did from time to time rely on her, meaning Carrie, to talk me down off of ledges. But there was a point in my life where I felt like I wanted to be the one to save her. I have in my full blood sister, Trisha Lee, an actual mirror, and she's my partner in crime and my partner in all things. And so I don't feel like I am a strong woman, and I think that in terms of like what you're talking about, this is a bit about addiction, and I think that it's in my DNA, and I think that in AA or programs like that, the first thing is to admit that you're powerless, and I can admit that because I am powerful. So I feel like I've had moments where I needed somebody to sort of like, hey, check in with me or something. But at the moment, I feel like I'm there for everybody else. So I don't know whether that, I have enough to give, so.
I don't think there will ever be a replacement for the support structure you find within family and you find within immediate friends, but how has life been with this social media support structure, with this whole other world that didn't exist when you were coming up, that when you had other problems? Now there's an entire web of people that, for all the bad things that social media allows to happen, there are some beautiful things that come about as a result of social media. You mentioned Carrie's fans reaching out to you. Mm-hmm. Do you find having that supplemental piece makes it a little easier going through different struggles, different things now in this world?
It's an interesting thing because I feel like I was like so against it for a while. Like, I'm not going to get into that. And, meanwhile, I'm like, how do you do the Instagram story? Could you help me, please? I think that you can't escape it. If you can't beat them, join them. And I'm trying to like have somebody help me do my thing. And, only post it between 12 and 2 because you get more eyes on it. And I'm like, what? I don't, Sorry, I just want to put my shoes on Twitter right now because
you should.
Right?
Oh, there's little ladybugs.
There's a ladybug and a pineapple.
Yeah, sorry.
Hashtag
hey, I
Gucci.
The pineapples back there.
Right?
It's blown away by the pineapple. I thought these were just pineapple shoes.
I mean, the shoes are getting more play than anything else. It doesn't matter about the book.
I didn't mean to interrupt your serious
okay.
answer with
my
marveling
God.
at your ladybug
Seriously.
shoes. Terrible at my job. I'm sorry.
They don't match, which is even cooler.
Oh, they're so much fun.
So yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, sort of.
You know what I noticed? I noticed that for all the the support, there's also this weird thing that we all know. We've seen it in the political arena and whatever. There's this, the troll thing. It's hard to like not look at it because it's that thing of like insecurity of like, what do you think of me? Right. So I read weird stuff in the past year that I felt like I wanted to like go to the people's house and like have a chat with them so that I could let them know that that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to be a better person, but also like, why are you judging the way that I grieve, or why and why are you actually typing it and putting it out as a post about something that you feel about somebody else? Like it's an amazing thing to me how we build. Look what I did. Build.
Oh, hey.
We build each other up and then we want to take someone down. And I don't understand it, but I think that the ugly speak is starting like with the one who's in the Oval Office.
He whose name we shall not speak, yeah.
But I think we have to sort of like, hopefully we don't become desensitized and we don't make it a normal thing. But I think that it's, it is kind of what's happening in social media. And
it does feel like the pendulum's starting to swing
not
in
here.
the direction, right? It does start to feel like that collectively we're all vocally becoming tired of the negativity and the trolling. And it is starting to swing back.
It's galvanizing us as human beings to sail into the streets and march and do whatever it is that we do. So, or write or sing or...
I'm getting the signal that we have time for one more question, so we're going to take one more.
This is really awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here. I wanted to know, because this was your first book, was there anything that came up that you had to get over, like a hurdle that you had to get over while you were writing this book that you weren't originally expecting when tackling?
I'll let you know when people start reading it. Honestly, it wasn't really that it was a hurdle. It was that I was trying to be truthful and respectful of everybody and honor people, but also, lay it out there. So I think that I would say there were a handful of things that I took out because I didn't want it to be, it's not an exploitive, like, tabloid piece. It's really my story. So I wanted that to be how people can, read it and didn't, read beyond that. There were a handful of things that I was like, you know what, that might be unkind. And when you read it, you'll realize that there's a lot of stuff in there that you might still feel that it is. But it is how... it is what informed and infused who I am as a human being. So it was, it was a lot. It was a lot to put out there, and I am the literal and the proverbial open book.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that answer, and thank you for this book. And I will say, yes, for all of the mountains of cocaine stories and whatnot that may pop up throughout here.
That's all anybody's talking about.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, is that this book is so much more.
I saw a headline that says Carrie Fisher watched her father shoot up as a toddler. Now, first of all, the next line after I said my first experience with drug use was as a toddler. Yeah. That's enticing, right? You think, she use drugs as a toddler? No, I watched my father. Yeah. But the only reason why I know this to be true is because I found a letter years later on legal paper, 8 pages, and it was the most of my father's handwriting I had ever held. And he was writing an apology to me for doing that in front of him. And I found a song with it, Through the Eyes of Jolie. And so the story wasn't I watched my dad do drugs. It was more I got what I wanted from him later on in my life when I was an evolved woman and ready to accept the apology.
And that's precisely what I was building towards, was one, is it frustrating seeing these people pull the things out of context or is it, well, they need to get clicks and what have you. But also, for all of those details, every single one of them informs the story, informs who you are. There's a reason you're sharing it.
Yes.
It's not just in there.
I was prepared, by the way. I knew people would do that.
Gonna do that.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's the business. That's how it works. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read the book.
Exactly. Which I cannot recommend enough.
It's really, and hopefully it's done also. There's a lot of humor in it, and so for all the mounds of cocaine, there's.
That's if you want me to give you a quote for the jacket inside, it's for all the mountains of cocaine, it all tells a story.
Yeah.
No, seriously, this book, guys, I'm telling you, it is a great read. It is not just funny and informative and full with beautiful and sad stories, but again, strong, beautiful stories about strong, beautiful women. It is a great book, and you deserve all the great success for this, and I wish you the best success. Guys, join me, a round of applause in thanking the great Carrie Fisher. Please.